West. Let's bring in Fred Fleitz, former National Security Council Chief of Staff and Vice Chair at the America First Policy Institute. So the bromance is blossoming. Makes Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron look like they were only going out for a date or two. What do you think is going to come out of all of this?
Well, it's been quite a show trying to show how this relationship is getting closer. Xi Jinping has invited Putin to Beijing. There has been talk of new economic deals, new energy purchases from Russia to China. There's talk about this peace deal, which Xi is pushing. It is a ceasefire agreement with 12 parts that I don't think Zelensky is going to support. Russia is pledging its support for it. And clearly China is trying to push this to promote itself as a peacemaker, to reduce Russian isolation, to reduce China's isolation, to counter American criticism of China as an existential threat. But I think below all of this, there's some disagreement. I don't think China is prepared to provide the weapons to Russia that Putin wants.
Well, that would be a good thing.
I think China would like to advance a situation where there's a ceasefire plan that is in Russia's interest, is in China's interests, and is against the interests of the West, and I'm not sure Zelensky's going to agree to that.
You know, it's remarkable that you bring up that peace plan because I just happen to have it on a web page here, and Russia would seem to violate the very first proposal of the 12-point plan, respecting the sovereignty of all countries. Universally recognized international law, including the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, must be strictly observed. Russia fails on that part.
I think Russia violates a lot of them, and there's a real concern that if this peace plan was to be adopted, there are some good aspects of it, that Russia would violate it in the near future. Ukraine would need some solid security guarantees, but I don't think we're anywhere near a situation where Ukraine can agree to a peace plan right now. They need all the weapons they can get right now to stop a Russian offensive this spring, to stage their own offensive. Hopefully that may put Russia in a position to negotiate.
Some people might disagree, but I think that John Kirby's been pretty much right on point with the Xi-Putin meeting. Listen to what he said yesterday about it.
View this discussion or this burgeoning closeness of these two countries as anything more than a marriage of convenience. President Xi finds in President Putin a useful foil for chafing or bristling or pushing back at U.S. leadership around the world, certainly on the European continent. And President Putin needs President Xi because he's running out of ammunition.
So this almost sounds more like the old Russia-Cuba relationship than some new ominous axis of evil.
Russia is by far the junior partner here. Their economy is a small percentage of China's economy. And something interesting happened last month. China put out maps that rename cities in eastern Russia to their original Chinese names. These are areas of China that Russia seized in the 1800s, that China is sort of giving a signal, we're taking them back someday. So these nations don't like each other. I think it is a marriage of convenience, but frankly, the poor relations the U.S. has with both of them is driving them closer together. I think that we need more aggressive diplomacy, even if we don't agree with both states, to try to stop this relationship from blossoming.
So this idea of China supplying arms to Russia, Anthony Blinken was sort of trying to forestall that by saying that, look, she's already coddling up to an accused war criminal. Why would he provide him with weapons? Here's what Blinken said. He said that President Xi is traveling to Russia days after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for President Putin, suggests that China feels no responsibility to hold the Kremlin accountable for the atrocities committed in Ukraine, and instead of even condemning them, it would rather provide diplomatic cover for Russia to continue to commit those very crimes. It's clear he's trying to embarrass Xi here, but the Wall Street Journal suggests, look, calling out the International Criminal Court, to which we are not a signatory, is the wrong thing to do. In an editorial saying the ICC is the wrong way to beat Putin, the U.S. should steer clear of endorsing the International Criminal Court's warrants. Again, Russia, China don't recognize the ICC. Neither do we, for that matter.
So Clinton signed the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court in 1992. The Senate refused to ratify it. John Bolton unsigned that treaty. It's a bad treaty, but the Democrats still like it. And if they could get it ratified by the Senate, they would. And Democratic administrations, Obama and Biden, they treat the ICC as if it is a legitimate organization. But they, frankly, if they're going to do that, they should submit the organization for ratification by the Senate. So it's not a surprise to hear Blinken saying or inferring that this is a legitimate organization, even though under U.S. law it isn't.
All right. Fred Fleitz, always good to get your take on things. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Appreciate it. Sandra?
All right.